Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, my guest will be Ms. Carolyn Flowers. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Charlotte Area Transit System. Greetings, Ms. Flowers. How are you doing this evening?
Thank you, Paul, for having me on the show again.
It's an honor to have you come on the show, ma'am. It's a blessing. Thank you, ma'am. CATS just celebrated its 5-year anniversary of the Lynx Blue Line. How did you commemorate the occasion?
Well, we did a variety of things this week. We had a stakeholder breakfast to thank the community for their support. We had contests using social media to have riders tell about their experience, and we selected stories. We also selected a rider, number 24,440,386, and that person received a prize of an annual pass and some other CATS memorabilia. And we also had an employee event to basically celebrate what we've been doing. So we included, our riders, our employees, and everyone in the community that has supported us to get to where we are today.
That's awesome. How would you describe the success of the first ever Lynx light rail system?
Well, I think that what you have to look at is how the light rail has transformed Charlotte, and in terms of the economic development, offering more mobility options, and it's just the first part of our plan to build a system here that'll support the growth and the economic vitality here in Charlotte.
What has been some of the challenges that you've faced over the last 5 years?
Funding. Just the economic downturn, the impact that it's had on us and our ability to ensure that we can continue to support the services and the mobility needs for the community. And so it's been a challenge for us to balance the revenues against the expenses. And so we've taken a lot of steps to ensure that we can continue to provide those services and be as efficient and effective as possible with our costs.
And you're doing a great job. Now the whole CATS, you're doing an awesome job for the city of Charlotte. And I applaud you and the CATS staff for all that you do. But a lot of people really depend on the system.
Well, I'd like to thank the entire CATS team, but it's also the community, the support that the community has provided, and then everyone here is an investor in the system by the virtue of their purchases and the sales tax that come to us. And so we have to basically be inclusive of the entire community when we talk about the gratitude for what we've been able to achieve.
What's in store for the rail plans in Charlotte for the next 5 years?
Well, there are two major projects that are coming up. First, the demonstration line streetcar, that's 1.5 miles, that's going to integrate into the light rail line. And so that should be coming up in spring of 2015 opening. And then we're also going to be constructing the extension of the light rail line. And we hope to have that open by March of 2017. So those are the two big things that are coming up.
CATS received a federal grant in December 2011 for the Blue Line that is up and running. What's being done with the grants?
Well, that grant was to extend the platforms on the light rail, existing light rail. We built the platforms to only have the capacity for 2 cars, but we've seen with the ridership and a lot of special events in the uptown area, the need for expansion of the platforms to accommodate 3 cars on the train. And so we received that grant last year, so we're now in the process of the planning and design for the expansion of the platforms and expansion of our power needs to support the additional trains. And so we're going to be trying to parallel the construction of the extension of the platforms at the same time as we are doing the construction of the extension of the light rail. So you'll see a lot of activity out on the line, and the key objective for us is to ensure that we continue to offer high quality of service for the existing line and not impact the riders of our existing alignment.
How's the economy affected Charlotte area transit system?
It's since 2008, we've had a significant impact to the sales tax revenues, and what it has done is basically have us go back and relook the long-term plan and basically adjust the timeline on projects that we can deliver. So we've had to make an adjustment on the light rail extension that we just received a full funding grant agreement from the feds and the state on their support, but we've had to scale back that project. We had to scale back 2 stations off of the alignment to get it to fit into our financial plan. We're having to look at innovative financing techniques for the commuter rail line that we're building or proposing to build, going out to Iredell County, going to the north of Mecklenburg County. And it's also basically tempered our ability to do, any other capital projects at this time. We're continuing to focus on keeping the same level of services here on the bus system and ensure that we can add amenities for the bus system and, continue to have a viable and robust bus system also.
Have you seen any improvement in the half-cent sales tax this year?
We've actually seen some rebound in the sales taxes, but then other things have, not been probably as robust as we would like. State has made some reductions in their assistance, operating assistance, and the federal government with the continuing resolutions and the specter of, lower appropriations and the possibility of sequestration has an impact on all of us. So.
Okay, I've noticed throughout the city we've seen the buses with advertisement on them and what's the value of the advertisement as far as what it really?
Well, last year we had probably close to $600,000 that we earned on the ads from the buses and the light rail trains, and this year we doubled our budget, and so we're trying to find ways that we can augment our operating shortfall that we've had from the sales taxes. And so I would say that the advertising has been pretty successful for us, and we're continuing to look for ways that we can find ancillary revenues and continue to support our operations and ensure that we can keep the level of service out there for our customers.
It's like a traveling billboard. Who developed that concept? I mean, because that was a brilliant idea.
Well, actually, it's pretty standard in the industry now to have advertising on your vehicles and on the light rail trains. And there had been a policy decision in the past to not do it here in Charlotte. And at this point, when we looked at, what are potential revenues, we had to look at options that we could find to ensure that we had some way of having additional income come in. And so we went back out and explored the market. Charlotte is about the number 24 market in the nation for advertising, so it was an opportunity for us to capitalize on a way to improve our financial situation. And so we're also exploring other things in the future that are around the advertising. So this is the beginning for us, and we hope that we see additional ways to increase our advertising revenues in the future.
Going into the new year, what are your priorities or goals? for CATS?
Well, number one is to come up with a balanced budget. Number two is to come up with a financing plan for our light rail line. Even though we have funding commitments from the state and from the federal government, it's just like anybody going out to buy a house. You basically have to come up with mortgage so that you can pay for the construction to get you there. And so, so that's going to be very key to us, is to come up with the financing plan and get that approved by the local government commission. And ensuring that we can sustain quality services for all of the patrons here, and that we continue to demonstrate that we have credibility with the community and we provide a good level of service for them.
You're providing outstanding service, ma'am. As far as myself, I'm stating that, a lot of people depend on the transit system as far as getting to employment, just getting around the city, and it goes around the whole Mecklenburg County. I think a lot of people appreciate the things that CAT does for them.
And there's additional needs out there, and we want to make sure that in the future we can address those needs, and that as the city grows and expands, that transit is there growing and providing linkages and mobility for people in the future.
What are some of the transit priorities that you would like to see the state legislature address in 2013?
Well, last night at the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, we had our legislative agenda approved. And so the key words that I've been continuing to use, funding and financing. So in the legislative agenda, we want to ensure that there's continuing appropriations from the state for transportation, specifically transit, and that we receive the continuing support for not only our operating but our capital needs in the future. We also are looking at ways that we can have flexibility in the financing of our projects. So, we've asked for some changes in the laws to be considered that would give us a flexibility in getting bond financing. And we're also looking at ways to be more efficient in the future. So one of the things that we've asked them to consider is to give us the ability to operate 60-foot buses that we can operate on what we call bus rapid transit systems, and also, on high capacity express lines. And if there's going to be high occupancy toll lanes out there in the future, that we're able to operate on those lanes with those type of buses.
Let's look back September 2012. Charlotte hosted the Democratic National Convention. How would you feel as far as the success that the transit system performed throughout that adventure, and what type of experience did you learn from that?
Wow. Well, one, to be flexible, and two, to plan. I think that we had the opportunity, to work with the DNCC, the host committee, Secret Service, FBI, stakeholders in the community, to look at the needs for transit during that period, and I think one of the big lessons we learned is how flexible and what we could do when we had to relocate. So we tried to ensure that we could replicate the same amenities that we have at the transit system center. And we also, I think, saw the community and our riders and how flexible and resilient they were during that period, and how supportive they were, because we did have to relocate. We did try to ensure that, you know, we could provide the same level of services, but we all had to be flexible because there were street closures changing every